What if I told you the key to mental toughness, the ability to endure, to stand firm when everything is falling apart, to keep moving forward no matter how brutal life gets, was discovered by a man who believed life was nothing but suffering. Arthur Schopenhauer looked at the world and saw a place where pain wasn't an exception but the rule. Most people live under the illusion that happiness is something they can catch if they just try hard enough. But Schopenhauer ripped that illusion apart. He argued that human existence is driven by an endless cycle of wanting, achieving, and then wanting again. The moment you get what you want, you realize it wasn't enough, and the cycle repeats. But here's where things get interesting. Instead of seeing this as a reason to despair, he showed us how to turn suffering into strength. And that's where the real secret to mental toughness begins. Think about the last time you were truly satisfied. How long did it last? An hour? A day? Maybe a week if you were lucky. Then what happened? A new goal appeared. A new problem surfaced. That's because the human mind is wired for dissatisfaction. The moment one need is met, another takes its place. Most people spend their entire lives chasing the illusion that one day they'll reach a point where everything is perfect. But perfection never comes.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
There's always something missing. And that's exactly why most people are mentally weak. They keep waiting for happiness to arrive instead of realizing that life has never been about happiness in the first place. Life is about struggle. And those who accept this truth become unbreakable. Here's the first shift that changes everything. Stop seeing pain as something that's happening to you and start seeing it as something that's happening for you. When Schopenhauer said that suffering is inevitable, he wasn't being cynical, he was being realistic. The difference between those who crumble and those who endure isn't the amount of pain they experience. It's how they interpret it. Two people can go through the exact same hardship, but one will break, while the other will use it as fuel. The question is, which one will you be? Look at the most mentally tough people in history. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome while dealing with constant betrayal and loss. Viktor Frankl survived the horrors of a concentration camp. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison and walked out stronger than ever. What do they all have in common? They accepted suffering as a fundamental part of life. They didn't waste energy wishing things were easier. They focused on becoming stronger. And this is where most people fail. They resist hardship instead of embracing it. They complain about how unfair life is, hoping that if they suffer enough, the universe will finally reward them with happiness. But the universe doesn't work that way. Strength isn't given, it's built. Schopenhauer believed that most people are slaves to their desires. They chase pleasure, hoping it will bring fulfillment, only to find themselves more miserable than before. That's because pleasure is fleeting. The moment you get what you want, the excitement fades, and you're left searching for the next high. This is why mental toughness has nothing to do with avoiding pain and everything to do with controlling how you respond to it. When you stop expecting life to be easy, you stop feeling like a victim. And when you stop feeling like a victim, you start taking control. Here's something to think about. If suffering is inevitable, why not use it? Why not turn pain into power? Every great achievement in history was built on hardship. Every strong person you admire has gone through hell to become who they are. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't luck. It's mindset. And that mindset starts with understanding that life isn't supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to test you. The question is, will you let it break you, Or will you use it to become unstoppable? Most people think mental toughness is about being fearless, but that's wrong. Fear never goes away. Neither does pain. The difference between those who break and those who don't isn't the absence of suffering. It's how they react to it. Schopenhauer understood something that most people ignore: life will never bend to your expectations. The world doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't care about how much you've been through or how badly you want something. The only thing that matters is whether you can keep going when everything is against you. Suffering isn't just inevitable, it's necessary. Weakness comes from comfort. Strength comes from hardship. The biggest mistake people make is thinking they can build resilience without pain. They want to be strong without struggling, confident without failing, wise without making mistakes. But that's not how reality works. The only way to develop mental toughness is to go through situations that demand it. Every time you endure something difficult, you become more capable of handling the next challenge. Every time you resist the urge to complain, you train yourself to focus on solutions instead of problems. And every time you refuse to let pain define you, you take back control. Schopenhauer believed that most suffering comes from attachment. People attach themselves to outcomes, to desires, to expectations of how life should be. Then, when reality doesn't match what they hoped for, they break. But what if you stopped expecting life to be easy? What if you accepted pain as part of the process? The moment you do that, suffering loses its power over you. When you stop seeing hardship as something unfair and start seeing it as the price of becoming stronger, everything changes. You stop wasting energy wishing things were different and start using that energy to adapt. Look at the strongest people in history. They didn't become great by avoiding struggle, they became great because of it. Every setback gave them an opportunity to grow. Every failure forced them to improve. Every painful experience built a level of resilience that couldn't be shaken. And that's the difference between those who succeed and those who don't. The weak let pain define them. The strong use pain to redefine themselves. Most people think happiness comes from getting what they want. Schopenhauer disagreed. He believed that happiness comes not from fulfillment, but from freedom, from detaching yourself from the endless cycle of wanting. The less power your desires have over you, the less suffering can control you. That doesn't mean giving up on goals. It means understanding that no achievement will ever bring permanent satisfaction. If you tie your happiness to external success, you will always be chasing something that never lasts. But if you learn to control how you react to challenges, you become unshakable. Mental toughness isn't about being naturally strong. It's about training yourself to endure. It's about expecting hardship and using it as fuel instead of letting it destroy you. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more resilient you become. The more you face challenges head-on, the more confident you get in your ability to handle them. And the more you stop resisting suffering, the less power it has over you. The question isn't whether life will be hard. It will be. The question is whether you will let that hardness break you, or whether you will use it to become someone that nothing can break. Most people waste their lives avoiding discomfort, thinking that if they just stay in their safe little bubble, nothing bad will happen. But Schopenhauer knew that suffering isn't something you can escape. It will find you, no matter how much you try to hide. The only choice you have is whether you face it willingly or let it crush you when it inevitably arrives. Weak people run from pain. Strong people walk straight into it and come out the other side sharper, smarter, and harder to break. That's the difference. Pain is the greatest teacher. Every hardship you've been through, every failure, every disappointment, every moment when you thought you couldn't take any more, that was life shaping you into someone stronger. But most people don't see it that way. They see obstacles as punishments instead of opportunities. They think life is against them when in reality, life is giving them exactly what they need to grow. The problem is, growth is uncomfortable. Nobody wants to go through suffering, but there's no other way to build real strength. You don't become mentally tough by reading books about it. You become mentally tough by surviving things that would break most people. Schopenhauer believed that life isn't about happiness, it's about endurance. If your goal is to be happy all the time, you've already lost. Happiness comes and goes. It's unreliable. But resilience, that stays with you. If you build real toughness, it doesn't matter what happens. You can lose everything, and you'll still find a way forward. And that's the real key, not chasing happiness, but becoming the kind of person that nothing can destroy. Look at history. The people who made a real impact weren't the ones who had easy lives. They were the ones who suffered, who were tested over and over again, who took every hit and kept moving forward. They didn't waste time complaining about how unfair things were. They adapted. They endured. And in the end, they came out stronger than the people who spent their lives trying to avoid pain. That's the real difference between those who achieve something meaningful and those who don't. One group accepts suffering and uses it. The other tries to escape it and stays weak forever. Most people will never reach their full potential because they refuse to endure discomfort. The moment things get hard, they quit. They tell themselves they weren't meant for it, that it wasn't meant to be. But the truth is, the only difference between those who succeed and those who don't is the ability to keep going when it feels impossible. Pain is temporary. Weakness is a choice. And the sooner you start seeing suffering as the price of becoming unbreakable, the sooner you stop letting it control you. Every time you push through something difficult, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than you thought. Every time you refuse to let pain stop you, you're building a level of endurance that most people will never have. Schopenhauer didn't sugarcoat anything. He didn't tell people what they wanted to hear. He told them the truth: life is hard, suffering is everywhere, happiness is an illusion. But instead of seeing that as depressing, look at what it really means. If you stop expecting life to be easy, nothing can disappoint you. If you stop thinking suffering is a mistake, nothing can break you. And if you stop chasing happiness and start building real toughness, nothing can stop you. Mental toughness isn't about feeling strong all the time. It's about refusing to quit, no matter how hard things get. And once you understand that, you become unstoppable. People spend their whole lives searching for happiness, thinking that once they get the perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect life, everything will fall into place. But it never works. The moment they achieve one goal, another takes its place, and the cycle starts again. Schopenhauer understood this better than anyone. He saw that human existence is driven by an endless craving for more, a hunger that can never be fully satisfied. And the people who don't understand this are the ones who suffer the most. They keep chasing something that doesn't exist, refusing to accept that life will never be without struggle. Mental toughness starts with accepting that struggle isn't a problem, it's the default state of existence. The people who thrive aren't the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who learn how to carry it. Weak people think suffering is something that happens to them, something unfair, something that needs to be fixed. Strong people understand that suffering is part of the deal, that it's not something to escape but something to use. And that's the biggest difference between those who succeed and those who don't. One group spends their whole life complaining about how hard things are. The other accepts reality and finds a way forward. Most people have no control over their minds. The moment things get difficult, they panic. The moment they experience discomfort, they quit. They think that because something is painful, it means they're on the wrong path. But what if pain isn't a sign to stop? What if it's proof that you're actually doing something worthwhile? Schopenhauer believed that suffering wasn't just unavoidable, it was necessary. Without struggle, there is no growth. Without hardship, there is no strength. Every time you endure something difficult, every time you make it through something that felt impossible, you're becoming someone who can handle more. And that's the real secret to mental toughness. It's not about avoiding suffering. It's about becoming the kind of person who can take any amount of it and keep moving forward. Look at the strongest people in history. They weren't the ones who had easy lives. They were the ones who went through more pain than most people could imagine and refused to let it destroy them. They understood something that most people never learn: comfort is the enemy of growth. The more you avoid discomfort, the weaker you become. The more you refuse to face challenges, the less capable you are of handling life when things inevitably go wrong. And that's why most people never achieve anything great. The moment things get too hard, they give up. They tell themselves they weren't meant for it, that it wasn't their fault, that life is unfair. But life has never been about fairness. It's about who can endure the most without breaking. Schopenhauer's philosophy isn't comforting, but that's exactly why it's powerful. He didn't lie to people. He didn't tell them that everything would be okay. He told them the truth: life is hard, happiness is temporary, suffering is constant. But if you accept that, nothing can break you. If you stop expecting life to be easy, nothing can disappoint you. If you stop looking for happiness and start building real resilience, nothing can stop you. Mental toughness isn't about feeling strong all the time. It's about refusing to quit, no matter how hard things get. And once you understand that, you become unstoppable.